1.
It hadn't been easy to go from there, but I'd managed it anyway. I had to speak to individuals, not a group, and that included the Pokemon. The rest situated themselves in the buildings I had unsurfaced. I gave them each a choice. They could obey me willingly, I could make them obey, or they could fight and die. Most chose one of the first two options. Golden sunlight streamed in through the bare window and formed a pool on the similarly dull floor. I saw no beauty or worth in it. After all, what good is beauty when it only hides the darkness that lurks everywhere? She entered the small room quietly, holding Togepi in her arms. I looked her in the eyes and immediately looked away. I knew she would be unforgiving. "Ash," she started, in the same way she always talks to me when telling me what to do. "Put your Pokemon over there to your left," I said. Her unspoken words hung in the air like smoke. Neither of us made a move for a good 5 minutes. I heard her take a step forward as she opened her mouth to berate me again. I turned an ice-cold glare on her. "Do it!" She made a small noise like she had choked on something. Then she gave me a glare of her own, filled with defiance and anger. "I don't see why you're doing this, Ash," she growled. I didn't answer her, but I didn't look away either. After a moment, she turned sharply and began placing her Pokeballs on the floor by the wall. She hesitated before putting Togepi down. "Togepi will be safe with me," I said. She glared at me. "I don't know if I can trust you anymore, Ash," she whispered. "You're not acting like yourself at all." "It doesn't matter if you think I'm acting like me. I am me, and you can't deny that." "How can I be sure?" she asked, standing up. "How can I know that you're not an imposter and something terrible's happened to Ash?" My anger took control over my common sense, and I hurt her without even thinking about it first. A small bolt of darkness hit her and cracked through her body. Togepi fell to the ground and rolled. Misty kept herself from crying out, then stumbled backwards as the energy faded. Gasping for breath, she checked to make sure that Togepi was all right, then shot me a look I'd never seen on her face before. I'd seen her angry at me before, but she'd never looked at me that way before. Ever. I struggled against the uneasiness I was feeling. It wasn't easy, but I'd managed to shut it out quickly and got back to business. "Look, just leave Ash, this isn't about Togepi!" Misty interrupted. She didn't shout, but I still flinched at the spite she put into her voice. She took a breath, then continued. "I don't really see how you could be Ash," she whispered. "I am Ash!" I shouted back. "I don't believe you." "No!" I cried. I rushed at her and stared at her face to face. She couldn't be serious about that. I couldn't let her believe that. "You can't prove anything." I growled, flew backwards, and landed. "This will prove it." I transformed back into my human form, ignoring the discomfort that it brought me. "I am Ash, whether she likes it or not, and nothing's gonna change that." The transformation itself was draining, but I found myself shocked as I realized how much weaker I was in human form than a Mew. I shook that thought out of my mind and glared up at Misty from my half-crouch. "There! Now do you believe me?" She seemed to want to say so, but kept it all bottled up inside. I could feel it, though, and if I went a little deeper... "What have you done to yourself, Ash? How could you do this?" I jumped towards her. "I don't know why I'm even bothering with this. I could just add you onto my list of my controlled and get it over with." "But you're not," she said quietly, then added more forcefully. "Is that supposed to make me feel special?" I gave her another jolt to quiet her sarcasm. After she had doubled over in pain, I walked back to my chair. "Maybe you're right, Misty," I whispered. I felt her look up at me, pained and now scared. I looked down at the floor and thought over the possibilities. "Your life is over, Ash." I shut my eyes and trembled as memories came rushing back to me. "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. Have you seen Ash?" "What? Misty, I am Ash." "I see. I guess I'll just have to keep looking then. Thanks anyway." Misty, wait! I am Ash! I'm Ash! I'm right here! Misty, come back!" He doesn't even know who he is? I came to say goodbye. "I can't take it anymore!" Breathing hard, I stared into Misty's eyes and saw fear. That was all I needed to see to know that nothing would ever be the same. "You're right, Misty," I whispered. "I'm not really Ash." She reacted silently, but I could feel her astonishment. I let myself float up and then changed back to my true form. "Ash Ketchum died a long time ago, Misty," I continued to whisper. My name is Ashura." She shook her head slightly, then stepped forward as if beckoning to me. "What are you talking about?" "Ash is dead, and now I am in charge. You have no choice, Misty. You're just going to have to accept this along with everyone else." "But what about you, Ash? Aren't you going to—" "First of all, my name is Ashura, and second of all, I think that answers your question." "Ash!" she pleaded. "If you think that can stop me—" "I don't!" she cried, on the verge of sobbing. I just—" Small sparkles fell from her cheeks, and she ducked her head. "Ashura," she whispered, "tell Ash that I'm going to miss him." She shook quietly and said no more. Tell Ash? For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. "I'll tell him." She looked up, surprised. "Now tell me if you'll help me." She swallowed and looked up with pitiful sorrow. She looked down and nodded ever so slightly. Misty became my best and most trusted advisor. Even in the worst of times, she was a steady force that was always by my side. Even now, I wonder if there was more driving her than a simple loyalty to a cause. But she was a rare gem in a sea of worthless rocks. After I had talked to everyone, only 4 were left without some degree of mind control. Those 4 were Misty, Richie, Nikiro, and my mother. Brock refused to fight me, but requested that if he stayed on my side, that he wouldn't have to bear witness to everything that happened firsthand. Richie didn't want to fight me either, but he wanted to keep his freedom. After he swore loyalty, I granted him that wish. Billy followed a path similar to Brock's, but had just given me enough control to erase the pain that she felt in her heart. I entered the narrow, dark room where a small white beast sat by himself in a corner. "Nikiro." "You're making a mistake, Ash," he said. I landed in front of him and put my paw on my hips. "Is that so?" He looked up at me with hollow eyes. "You're going to regret this. I know you will. For the record, my name is Ashura." He blinked slowly. "Ash, please stop this. Nothing will come out of it." "What are you trying to get at?" I snapped. "It's pointless. You're only going to make things worse." "That's impossible," I hissed. I left Nikiro in that room. He could have easily escaped whenever he wanted to, but he never tried. I made sure he was taken care of, but he only accepted enough to keep him alive. As time went by, his wardens became more and more hesitant to go down there. And Mom, she tried to reason with me too. She wanted to bring Ash back. I tried to convince her that this was the way that everything was supposed to happen, but she didn't believe me. I couldn't bring myself to control her, but I couldn't make myself destroy her either. I gave her her own miniature palace to stay in, and gave her all the luxuries I could imagine. She died in less than a year. Misty told me that it was due to a broken heart.